Hello and welcome back to Trigger Smart. Today we're going to talk about the folding AR. And this is something that has to do with possibly the case with Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk. We don't know 100%. We're going to get more into that. A lot of people jump to that conclusion, but we'll see. This is something that Candace Owens covered yesterday, and it was just a small piece of everything that she covered in that episode. But I want to walk through it really quick and see what are the possibilities, because there is something here, if there's something here. So did you see what they did there? They took a folded gun, opened it up, locked it in place, put the pin in place, and now they're firing it like a regular gun. And this is something that's not a new idea. This is something they do all the time with PCCs. There are 9mm carbines and other guns that do the same type of thing. They fold, or they have like a collapsing stock that slides into the main part of the body and the main upper. This is not something that is groundbreaking, right? But it's interesting because this ties into the story that Candace was talking about. A lot of these folding guns, they're just in 2 sections. This one is actually in 3, as you see here. So you can see that you have the stock, you have the back, you have the main upper, and then you have the rest of the front upper and the handguard. And those 3 lock into each other and fire just like a regular gun. It becomes a fully functional rifle at that point. Longevity compared to a regular rifle that's not pieced out like this, I don't know. You have to maintain the joints and the hinges and everything else, but it functions is the point. And once you're done, you have a fully functional, full-length AR, or whatever gun you designed to do this. So what's the importance of this? Why does it matter? Well, the importance of this is the fact that whoever was supposedly involved, whether it's Tyler Robinson or someone else, whoever supposedly took the shot, had a backpack going up the stairs. Remember that? Well, this would easily fit into that backpack. And once it's opened, could easily be fired and used to kill someone, right? And that's the whole point of what Candace was talking about yesterday, and why so many people got excited, like they do with everything. The exploding microphone, possibly faked his death, the frangible bullet explained everything, right? Like, there's all these little pieces that get dropped, and everyone's like, that's it. We don't know if that's it, but this is interesting because this would fit. If he has the backpack going up the stairs, we don't see a clear rifle or anything down his pants. We don't see a rifle sticking out of the back of his backpack, right? This would fit from the point of view of he could have a folded AR or some other gun in his backpack, get to the roof, pop it open like you saw, take the shot, fold it back down, collapse, put it in the backpack, and run off. And when he jumps off the roof and everything else, maybe that's why we don't see a distinct firearm. Maybe that's why we just see what may be the backpack. I did the video breaking it down where you can see something long there. Someone else broke it down a different way, and they saw a backpack there. But the interesting thing is, the way he was carrying the backpack and stuff was kind of awkward. He should have just put it right back on his back, right? But either way, even if it is just his backpack, this folding AR would make it so it's still possible to do the crime. What I want to do now is cover some of the pieces that Candace talked about, and this will kind of pull all the little pieces together that I was talking about before, but just think of it from the point of view that there's this folding gun. The gun can fold and fit easily inside the backpack. It can be pulled out of the backpack, set up, take the shot, collapse back down, and put in the backpack, right? So that makes it so there doesn't have to be a 40+ inch rifle down his pant leg or a rifle when he jumps off the roof, because it'd all be in his backpack. And then what still doesn't fit is the gun that they said it supposedly is, doesn't fit this. The caliber, they said this supposedly was, doesn't fit this. And some other pieces we'll talk about after Candace, but let's do this first.
Now I'm going to tell you guys about a mysterious transaction that took place in the midst of all of this. On June 6th of 2024, Corby met with a buyer, a person who wanted to purchase just one of his fold ARs. And it was a Texas deputy, no less. And he purchased a fold AR with the serial number 02735. Fast forward about a month later, on the 4th of July in 2024, that Texas deputy contacted Corby, and he told him that the gun was stolen at a gas station in Midland, Texas. He said that he had accidentally left the car doors, the windows down, and someone grabbed the backpack with the fold AR inside of it. And that Texas deputy then claimed that he reported it to local Midland police, and that was it. No more follow-up. No one contacted Corby, nothing. Just a missing gun.
So we have a gun. We have this folding AR. And this company supposedly has been working on long-range folding guns as well, right? Like, think like 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, things like that, with longer barrels. I haven't seen them in public production, but they say they have been working on them. So there is a possible chance that whatever this was may have been something like that, but it doesn't have to be. There's been a lot of people who have talked about this possibly being a AR, right? An AR-15, like Ranger State Bro was talking about that as well. And it's important because there are situations where, depending on the ammo you use for that 5.56 or 223, they do also make the folding AR in other calibers. They do 7.62 x 39, I believe, as well. I think there's 5 or 6 calibers total. We'll look at that here in a second. But the point is, it could be a 308 sized round that comes out of a folding AR. It's interesting because if this is true, then that means that this officer basically purposefully or accidentally had this firearm come up missing. And he says, or he said at the time, that it was reported to police, to the authorities, that it was taken. But let's hear what else happened.
We're going to fast forward again to September 10th, 2025, the morning of Charlie Kirk's assassination, at 9:33 a.m. Central. So again, this is a full year and 2 months later after this gun went missing, and Corby receives an email from the ATF. They're conducting a trace on that exact gun. Now, you might be like me. You might not know what that means. What is an ATF trace on a gun? Why do they do that? What does it mean? Well, the ATF is, of course, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms and Explosives. They're got involved in this case quickly, as we know, came back with the inconclusive trace on the Tyler Robinson gun. And when they are doing a trace, when they email you and say that they are conducting a trace, what it means is that they are seeking to identify the first retail purchase of a firearm that they have determined is involved in a crime.
This is interesting because the way that it's worded makes it sound like the folding AR with that specific serial number that was originally given to the sheriff that was taken like a year previous from this gas station, supposedly. So it's just floating out in the wild, right? Supposedly, this was somehow being traced for a crime, and this call came the same morning that Charlie Kirk was shot. But the strange thing is, she says that the bullet and the ATF were basically saying they couldn't tie the bullet back to Tyler's gun. So are they saying that there's more than one gun? Because you had the original grandpappy's gun or his dad's gun or whatever it was. There was like this World War I or World War II relic, and they showed an obviously stock version of it. But if that's the case and they couldn't match the bullet to that gun, does that mean that this other gun, this possible folding AR that was called about, that was used in a crime, just coincidentally happened to happen when Charlie Kirk was shot that morning, right? So this isn't saying 100% definitively that this folding AR was used on Charlie Kirk, but it is making it interesting if it was, because then it would just fit in the backpack nicely and allow you to do a crime like this.
So let me restate that to you. On the morning of Charlie's assassination, they reached out to Corby, effectively saying, this gun is involved in a crime, and you are the manufacturer, and we'd like to know where you sent it. You have 24 hours to respond to these emails, by the way, as a gun manufacturer or a gun seller. Corby did, and mysteriously he heard nothing back. There was no follow-up. He felt very weird about it, given the eventual assassination of Charlie Kirk, everything that was surrounding the gun, no gun, magic bullets that went through. And so what he did was he decided to reach back out to the person he sold the gun to, the Texas deputy sheriff guy. And he picked up the phone and he said, no, ATF never contacted me, the person who the gun was sold to. The deputy also told him that he had checked some system that he has available and he has access to, and that gun is somehow not even reported as missing. This
gun has been out in the wild for like a year, and basically it was never officially reported stolen, or at least the record has been wiped or whatever happened with that. And again, we're not saying this is the specific one used in the Charlie Kirk case, but the fact that the call was that morning, the same morning as Charlie Kirk getting shot, and the fact that this one has a trace on it, indicating that it may have been used in a crime, doesn't mean it's this crime. But if it was, that's definitely interesting, because that would indicate a few things. One, the supposed firearm that's being looked at for Tyler Robinson is not the correct firearm that possibly killed Charlie. Two, Tyler Robinson wasn't the only person there who had a gun, if he had a gun. And then three, there may have been a different shooter altogether, and Tyler Robinson may have had nothing to do with the shooting. But again, like I said, this is not saying definitively that this full AR was used to kill Charlie, but the coincidences are there, right? And we've seen a lot of coincidences in this case. But it's interesting. If it was a full AR, put in the backpack, this person goes up, they open it up, they shoot, they close it, collapse it back down, put it in their backpack, and they jump off the building and they take off. And then there's this old-timey rifle that's found that looks like a World War I, World War II relic that came from supposedly Tyler Robinson's family before him, like passed down to him. Then that could mean that there was a shooter. Charlie was shot, supposedly, and this person used a folding AR or something else that could collapse into his backpack that was powerful enough to make that shot. Now, I can tell you from experience, from shooting and being around other people that shoot and guns and everything else, there are firearms that are rifles, AR-15s, that are maybe 11 and a half, 12 inches long that fold, and they will fit into a decent-sized backpack. And we'll see here in a second, the backpack is decently sizable, and someone has fit an 11 and a half inch AR into that backpack. So the question is going to be, with a short-barreled rifle, can you make these type of shots, like 140 yards plus? Yes. I hit 300 yards all the time. We have steel out at the range, and I can just sit there all day long with my red dot and just ping the 300-yard gong all day long. And so can my kids. My kids can shoot that same AR, resting on a bench, of course. They can sit there and they can hit the same steel at 200 and 300 yards fairly easily. So a 140-yard shot with a shorter barrel rifle is a possibility. But what does that do? That shifts it. It could still be, technically, it could still be a 30-06 or a 30 caliber style bullet. Another possibility, too, is it was an AR-10 and not an AR-15. Those can be short as well. There's some that are 10.5, 11.5, whatever. And then in that case, it would be a 30 caliber bullet, like the 30-06. But again, if they're only finding pieces of this, if there's just pieces of shrapnel, if there's just pieces of fragments in there, how do they really know what it is? Well, they said they have bullets, right? They have the original bullet casing that was in this bolt action rifle, supposedly, and like 3 extra bullets. They should know exactly what it is, but that's not matching. They're not able to match that fragment back to that stuff that they already have. So does that mean that this folding AR may play a role? Was it not a 30 caliber bullet? Because like many others have said as well, if you take a 5.56 and you shoot it from that distance, especially a short barrel, and depending on the ammo, it can start to tumble and yaw and move different ways in the air. If you take a 5.56 with this high velocity and it goes and it rolls, right? It's rolling as it's coming in and it hits, that can leave a pretty good sized keyhole in your neck, right? So there's a lot of possibilities that could be opened up from this, but just remember, we keep getting more information, keep going down different paths. We don't know the official path. It's an endless goose chase at this point, right? But this is an interesting piece of information if it's all true.
Anyway, let's fast forward to 2025, right? So they're in conversation about this company. Now, in the first quarter, and I'm again reading in first person here, in the first quarter of 2025, Mr. Marks had offered to help find an investor for Fold AR. After all, he knew that we were just barely skimping by financially, as there is not much margin and a lot of risk in manufacturing rifles with a very right? So they're in conversation about this company.
Now, there's a whole nother piece to this Fold AR saga, and it has to do with this pastor that she's talking about in this episode. And supposedly they were trying to get Fold AR to be used by the IDF or something similar for like 50,000 troops. And he was trying to buy out the company, and there was some back and forth there, some bad blood or whatever may have happened. She goes enough in depth into that I don't need to really talk about it. But it's interesting that this particular Fold AR would be used. Obviously, they could use any folding gun. So the fact that there was a trace the same morning on this specific one that was given to that sheriff, that is strange to me. That should be followed up on, obviously, and I'm sure it probably will be. This is the story about the pastor.
The first quarter, and I'm again reading in first person here, in the first quarter of 2025, Mr. Marks had offered to help find an investor for Fold AR. After all, he knew that we were just barely skimping by financially, as there is not much margin and a lot of risk in manufacturing rifles with a very saturated and volatile market. So yeah, jumping into 2025, he and his wife are wanting to sell this company. They're cash strapped. They're willing to make this deal with Victor Marks on essentially 2 conditions. The first is that the guns are going to be used for school resource officers. They wanted school security to be the primary and permanent mission. The second is that they wanted to have enough money, if they agreed to sell the company, that it would be enough money that they would no longer have to work. So those are pretty simple 2 conditions that they had. He tells us that as the stress of this had built up on my wife and I drove to Mr. Marks' house to discuss both personal and business-related matters. When I arrived late at night, Mr. Marks and his COO, Chaz Yandel, he goes to Haiti, by the way, met me at the hotel. They were both wearing bulletproof vests. We sat down in the dining area, and Mr. Marks stated that he intended to perform another retooling prayer on me. I politely rejected his offer, advising him that it would be akin to me making an idol of him, as continually seeking deliverance from man is man worship.
I won't watch the whole thing. Obviously, if you want to go see all the details and everything, go watch that episode from yesterday. But long story short, there's this pastor. He wanted to supposedly use this fold AR for the IDF and for military purposes. Corby Hall, who is I guess he's the inventor and partial owner of fold AR. He and his wife wanted to get out of that, but they wanted to do it in a certain way where the fold AR was only going to be used for teachers, right? They wanted like the resource officers and things to have it. They had a very specific plan they wanted to do with this fold AR. And clearly that's not the direction it was going to go if he sold it to this gentleman. And this is fold AR. This is their website. And as I go through here, you can see, veteran invented, veteran owned, veteran manufactured. They have all different styles and sizes of different guns. You can get in different calibers. If we go up here to featured weapons, we can see that they have some that are longer range and some that are shorter, more for like CQB and that kind of stuff. This here is the Watchman, and you can see it folds down pretty compact. I believe they said it folds down to 18 inches. Yep, just under 18 inches with a 16-inch barrel. That is more than enough to shoot a 140-yard shot accurately. And you can also have the optic attached to it. In this case, looks like they have an LPVO or something similar. And that's something you could easily take out to 140 yards accurately if that's what you were shooting with. But you can see here, deployment speed, less than 2 seconds, barrel length 16 inches, and it comes in different calibers. 5.56, which is your typical AR-15, 223 as well. But some of you mentioned that this could have been a 30 caliber 300 blackout. And also 7.62 x 39, which is what an AK uses. And then also 350 Legend. So as you can see, we have at least two things here that would theoretically match this 30 cal bullet that they said they found. And we also have the 5.56 capability that many other people were suspecting for this case. But the point is, it comes in different calibers. And we don't know if the one that went out was one of these specific models. It could have been something else altogether, right? There's some stuff that was saying that they were doing some long distance sniper style rifles as well. They were coming in like 308s or 6.5 Creedmoor or something similar. Now, I want to make clear as well, I'm not saying that fold AR was some part of this assassination, right? They're not being implicated by me, but this is something that is interesting if this was used for that purpose. So don't go attacking this company. Don't start messing with the CEO and that kind of stuff. This is just a tool that might have been used for the wrong purpose. And then we have Wilson here. This person is also the one that basically said it was the backpack. In the slow-mo video, when I was seeing the long item that I wasn't sure what it was, maybe a gun, stick, whatever it may be. In his analysis that he did previously, he's saying it's the backpack. Okay, so say if it is the backpack. Now, if it's just the backpack and nothing else, still makes sense with the fold AR or something similar. He could just throw it in there. But here he's saying, we've identified the suspect's backpack type and size, which must have contained the murder weapon, right? Allegedly. It matches the stairwell photos and the escape video. He says, I fit an 11.5 SBR without it printing through the fabric, right? Now, this is an 11.5. I don't know if he has a folding stock or anything like that, but if he can fit a full-size 11.5 AR-15 into this backpack, then you know folding one's definitely going to fit. So if you look at this, this is the one that was used by the supposed alleged gunman. And then on the right, this looks like it's, the same one or very similar, but you can see this is kind of unique here, whatever this is. But if that's the same one, it's pretty sizable. And he says specifically that he can fit an 11.5 AR in there. So this is, I assume, without the AR, and this is with it. But from top to bottom, all the way in, it fills out this backpack without sticking out of it, looking awkward or anything like that. So that means he could jump down and do what he needs to do on this other side. To me, this still looks very awkward if it's a backpack, but it could be, right? So if this is a backpack with a firearm in it, it could fit a 11.5 or maybe a 12-inch AR-15 in there, especially with a folding stock or something similar or a collapsing stock. And it could definitely fit a fold AR if there's any truth to what Candace was saying from this other gentleman. So that gives us a situation where this person getting up there with the backpack, unfolding the gun, taking the shot, putting it back down, collapsing it, whatever it may be, whether it's a fold AR or a regular AR, putting it into the backpack, running off the roof and jumping off and walking off into the forest or wherever you went seems very plausible in this scenario. But you have to remember, too, that they found this gun, this old-timey gun. They don't say it's collapsible. They don't say it's a fold AR. They don't say it's an AR at all, right? Usually when it's an AR-15, they jump on that. They're like, oh, it's an AR-15. It's a murder weapon, and let's ban them. Let's ban everything. They didn't do that. They said it's some World War I, World War II relic, supposedly. So what does all this mean? This means if there's any truth to this, there's a possibility. We don't know how much of a possibility yet. We have to have more proof that either an AR-15 or an AR-10, which is 30 cal, which would match like a 30-06 sized fragment, right? Either one of those could work. They could be foldable. Like if it's a fold AR or something similar, you can have a collapsible stock. You don't have to have special clearance or be given this by a company with like special privileges to have this type of thing. This is stuff that's legal to buy. So even if that specific serial number one was being traced by the ATF that Candace was talking about, it doesn't require anything special to get this stuff if he had a separate different one that he used or someone else used it, right? Because this kind of insinuates that there's more than one firearm. There may have been the original firearm that they say was the murder weapon, and it may have been shot, it may have been used, and an additional weapon shot from somewhere else. So that could indicate possibly two shooters. It could be that the folding AR was the one that was actually used by some other shooter, and they're using the old-timey grandpappy's rifle for Tyler Robinson as the patsy, and he's supposed to take the fall that this was the supposed gun that was used in this, right? So there's a lot of different scenarios, but this is very interesting. Obviously, you guys reached out to me. We're like, oh my gosh, it's a folding gun. This is like the, this is the ultimate thing. This is it. I mean, it could be. We don't know 100% yet, but it's interesting for sure. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Does this seem legitimate? Do you think this is what it is? Do you think we need more information? Like, should we stop jumping so fast on this stuff because some of it just fizzles out into nothing? Or do you think this is it? But as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this around. There are links down in the description if you want to contact me or if you want to support the channel. And also make sure you check out my UAP videos. I have 2 so far, part 1 and part 2 of the UAP UFO series. We have supposedly more disclosure coming out from the government on aliens.gov and that kind of stuff. And then also, I just did a new video that was talking about my favorite drill that you can use for someone that's new when you're shooting and you're learning how to shoot a handgun. So make sure you check that out too. And I'll see you on the next one.